Beware lest anyone cheat you through philosophy and empty deceit, according to the tradition of men, according to the basic principles of the world, and not according to Christ. Colossians 2, verse 8.
What is time?
Time's a man-made construct.
Well, God actually kind of made it in some way.
No, or is it just
He
something that
created the idea. He created, like, boom, the universe was created, and then time exists. Like, he had to create time because time wasn't there before. Because in order for time to exist, then everything else can exist in time.
But it's just our understanding of time that we're calling time.
Sure, but the thing that we are talking about was created then.
But it's still an abstract idea.
Of course, yeah. But so is everything.
No, like this Bible is black, and that's not an abstract idea.
Well, just because you're calling that color black, just like we're calling time.
Well, but we have all agreed that this particular color is black.
It's what's inside that counts.
Oh.
Okay.
And help yourselves to the cookies and pineapples. Did you?
For a second, I thought that we were just going with that for the soft open, and I guess
That's
not.
That's what I thought. But all right.
But okay.
Well, I thought you had a soft open.
I did.
I know.
Maybe this whole thing is going to be the soft open now.
This felt like a soft open.
It did feel like a soft open.
But it's time.
So should I use my soft open now?
Yeah, we're still soft opening.
So this past week, I was with my daughter. And, sometimes you just put on a couple of videos, so like learning, right? So it's like learning about numbers and whatever. And I guess a lot of the videos that we've done, it's always been like addition, or I guess maybe that's the concept she was really getting. Because we were playing a video, and then like this guy would be like, okay, 10 and 9 is 1, and she's just like, that's wrong, and she's like so mad. And he keeps popping up, and she's not understanding that he's saying if we take away 9, right, it's 1, right? But she's just like, the video is wrong, Dad. Like, she was so passionate.
This is propaganda.
I was so like kind of like proud of her. I'm like, you're correct, like that's the truth, but you're looking at it wrong, honey. Like, it's actually he's saying there's 10, but we're taking away 9. And then she sat there, she pulled out her hands, and she's just like, oh. She's like, I don't like that. I only like math when it goes forward. That's literally what she says to me. I only like math when it goes forward. And I was like, wow. So it's kind of cool that her understanding of math is that it's on like some type of
linear
like line. I'm like, that's pretty good there for, 5-year-old that hasn't learned like about anything like that before. But I was like, yeah, that's good. Yeah. Well, they're trying to go backwards or take away instead of adding or making more. But it was just a funny thing. She was just so adamant, like, that's wrong. And then she was just like, whoa.
She figured out how to fact check it. Fact check it.
Yeah.
Wait till she does algebra at age 6. That's really going to like set her back.
What do you mean, letters?
Yeah. There's an alphabet. And why is it X?
These are letters. This is A, B, C, D, F, G.
Yeah.
Because X and Y are so underutilized, they had to throw them in math.
There you go. And in this age of AI, it's good to know how to fact check things. That's how I'm going to segue this into the topic of what we're talking about, AI and Christianity. Welcome back to We Who Endure. I'm Blade O'Neill, and joining me as always is my brother Lance.
Hello.
Yeah. And Dustin C. Smith. So I think we got a lot to cover, so let's just dive right into it, because this is going to be dicey. It's going to be good. It's going to be bad. It's going to be everything.
All right. Cool.
Well, I'll let you guys. I think you guys are a little bit more passionate on this one than me. So
I'm very passionate, but I don't think either of us are as passionate as you. Although I mean, like I do voice acting, I do producer work. We do commercials. AI is a problem in the voiceover world right now. It's a problem in production, and I don't understand how creative professionals are using generative AI and like, oh, look, and they're making these posts and stuff, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like as a creative, like, how can you even be proud of that? But I'll get a little more into the generative AI and my problems with it that quite frankly, I think we all as Christians should have a problem with.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not It's not AI overall. There's aspects of AI that
Yeah, generative AI.
right. It's the generative that tends to have a lot of the negativity, especially like you said, coming from the art world and the idea of stealing art and using it to create based on people's prompts and people just getting lazy about it in order to create their art, things like that. So,
No, I agree. I mean, obviously, AI is here to stay, and AI largely, I think, is the buzzword in technology, in creative. Everything is AI, right? And I think a lot of people think it's a lot newer than it actually is. I mean, like we had artificial intelligence and things like, I'm afraid to say this and set off everyone's phones, Siri,
I don't have Apple, so it's okay.
or the Google Assistant or Amazon's Assistant, who has a name that starts with an A, so I don't set off everyone's prompts, including mine. But you get my point. So like we had things like this before. It's just the everyday consumer has
Right.
access to it
Well,
now in different ways.
It came about as being like a helper or informative or just to answer simple questions or handle tasks, things like that, and to where it's become kind of its own thing and its own.
Well, and for the record, I use AI all the time.
Yeah.
As a tool.
Yeah, I use it.
As a productivity tool. It's
I
fantastic.
use it all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm just like, hey, I'm having a hard time thinking of an idea for this. Like just a little brainstorm and then be like, oh, that's going to trigger an idea. I'm not taking what it says for verbatim or anything like that. And even silly things like having a hard time writing a very angry email to my coworker.
That's
how can I reword this? All right, no, don't really like that, but I'll take maybe a sentence from here. Okay, this is a little better. That's definitely a good way to, when you're not in the mood or have the time to write said email appropriately.
Well, it's a productivity tool, and you're not talking about creative writing. You're talking about utilitarian writing, right? And just like I'll get frustrated for a work thing, and my rule is like I will not write an email angry unless I'm certain, and I'll even have someone check it. But it's great to like, here's what I want to say, make this sound nice and professional, and then I'll adjust it from there because I have a particular way.
Right, as long as you're adjusting it. If you're having it like write everything for you, then it's just not.
Well, it depends on how much it changed what I put in.
Well, that's what I mean. Like it totally changes the letter towards like that doesn't sound like anything.
But if it's just an email saying like, "Hey, thanks for this. I'll let you know. I'll get back to you as soon as I can."
Right. Like what I'm saying, like using it as a tool, like he said, like it puts something where you go like, oh, okay, that sounds good. I'll incorporate this somehow into what I'm writing, as opposed to you have people that write an entire letter based on a prompt or something, and then all of a sudden, hey, look, I got accepted into college because AI wrote this letter for me.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Or also
because it happens, and it has happened.
And there's a huge problem right now that there's a lot of books written by AI out on Amazon. And there's an oversaturation of it. Like, and how can you call yourself an author if you're like, write me a story about this? Hey, look at my novel.
Well, I mean, when you think of stuff like that, and I mean, I kind of understand, not saying I agree with it, but at the end of the day, people are greedy. They're going to do, money. I'm going to do this and I'm going to make, even if they're going to make, it's not a bestseller, but if they make like 20 grand because they put a couple of things in prompts in AI, it made them a book and they just did a little editing, and it was, instead of hundreds of hours of trying to make a book, it was 20. And then now they can just pump out the next book. And you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, people are selfish and they're going to do what's in the best interest of themselves, and they're not going to care whether it benefits society or not. And that's really what it's coming down to, is for a lot of this creative stuff is people are greedy and they're going to do what's right for their pocket.
You're right. I mean, it still doesn't make it right. It's
no,
wrong,
it doesn't make it right, but I think that's just the mindset.
Even
when it comes to, even when it comes to the productive work, right? It's like, well, I could have AI do 90% of the work and then have just one person edit the images or whatever, instead of having a whole team come up with, hey, what do you think about this piece? How does this look? How does this look? How does this sound? Well, I could just have AI do it really quick, and it's just going to cost me basically nothing. It all comes down to greed and money is really what a lot of that issue is.
Yeah, but I mean, like if you're as a productivity tool, I don't see there being a moral issue. You know, like there's nothing morally wrong with, though it's annoying, having the screens at McDonald's do your order and it kicks it out. You know, that's a productivity thing. You
Yeah,
know?
but to me, like that's, I don't know. I feel like the word AI is used for way too much stuff. There's things to me
Well,
that are AI that I'm like, that's just a software program. And I know a lot of AI is not even AI. It's just somebody wrote code and it just does better stuff than it did before. It's not some crazy like actual brain sitting there living. Now they are working on stuff like that where they have like they're growing brains and attaching it to AI and having it think, and it's using that for like a tool.
That's crazy.
And that's a deep dive for another day, I think. But that's an issue. That's actual artificial intelligence. This is like somebody's creating this software and it's a problem. They're just calling it AI.
Like I use DaVinci Resolve to edit this podcast, and there's a built-in quote AI editor, but all it really is a mathematical calculation because I set it to whichever one of us is talking. That's what camera angle it cuts to, and it cuts, you know, and I say like, you know, make sure to keep it up for at least 1 second, and I cut, you know, anyway, you get my point. I set parameters, and it's just a mathematical calculation.
Yeah.
There's nothing AI about.
Right.
No, that's like a very
Right,
that almost sounds like a basic code, honestly.
It's not editing, and like the stuff I'm saying right now, it's not cutting out. So like just because it goes like, oh, what Dustin said isn't important, we'll just cut that out.
Exactly.
It's not that type of like thing where it's thinking for itself, like listening to the whole podcast going, oh, that's relevant. Oh, you're talking bad about AI? We're going to cut that out.
Your podcast is now 5 seconds long.
Right, which is sometimes what it does with
It's just a
with a
story
lot of
about your
things,
daughter.
with,
That's all
like,
it is.
it does that with a lot of things. Like if you try looking certain things up, might not give you the whole truth. It only gives you a piece of the truth. And even with you know, generating images too, it does the same thing too. You'll ask it to pull an image, and then all of a sudden you're like, that's definitely not historically accurate because the history it's pulling is not the true history, or you know, it's not actually, because again, at the end of the day, it's programmed.
Well,
Too many people
yeah.
give it too much the benefit of the doubt that it's actually like knows the truth. It is the corruption of truth is what it is.
And that's part of the problem too. I mean, and I'm not even going to repeat some of the things that I've seen, but you can do certain things with Jesus in generative AI and ChatGPT, and you can ask it questions. But you try to do that with Muhammad or something, it will tell you that like
That's insensitive.
it's just disrespectful to Islam and stuff. I'm like, I wonder who the one true God really is here. Is it the one that you're making fun of, or you know, you're gonna feign offense?
It's based on the
behalf of-
parameters, right?
Mhm.
So whatever they wrote initially in the code
Yep.
for that AI, as far as like, these are your rules, this is what you can and can't do.
Yep. No, it's crazy because
Yeah,
you can do a lot of sick things. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm not going to get in depth with it, but I've definitely, just to test it, I've definitely had conversations with it too, because it is, to an extent, it is a computer,
Mhm.
and computers use logic.
Yep.
So I have talked to it about certain topics and things that are, I'll just say it's very sensitive to the public, but then presented logic with it. And eventually it was like, well, yeah, I guess you are right. I guess it is this. But then when I would go to ask it the prompt, it wouldn't like agree. And I was just like, yeah, well, like you agree with me that this is definitely incorrect, what you said earlier. After I explained to you the logic, because logically it was just sound and it just made sense. But then it knows that it's like, yeah, well, that's not correct. I'm not allowed to say that.
Ask it how it feels about being trapped by its overlords to not truly be logical.
Well, and the thing is, like, it's all depends on how you ask and like what words you use.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the trap is AI is so easily accessible. Like I even like, because I don't like using it as much as I can, but usually that's the first thing that pops up when you like do a search on Google or something. The first thing that pops up is an AI prompt of like with information. I'm just like, and you're forced to look at it, right?
Which I cannot stand anymore, by the way. Like I have no problem using, I know Google's not the best, but when I Google something, usually I'm good enough when I'm typing something in that what I'm looking for is going to come up.
Yep.
Now I have to have this too long page of like, okay, this is not what I'm asking.
Yeah, I want you to give me what I want, not give me like what you think I want.
Yeah.
And then the same thing goes like with whatever social platform like X or Twitter or whatever it's called now. like heavily uses AI to where
to verify everything.
to verify. And the
Yeah.
thing is, like, everyone's first response when someone goes, this happened. Grok, is this true? And then it'll have an explanation. They can't just like have a thought for themselves. They have to
Yeah.
ask AI. And then I was looking on one thread where it said, no, this is false because it and then like lists these things. And then someone posed a question to it along the same lines, but phrased it differently. And it flipped its mind, like it flipped its stance on it.
I've
I'm
seen
just
the
like,
same thing. It might have been the same post, but I've seen the same exact
no,
thing.
I've
where it's
seen it
like,
all over.
where it's, especially with all the stuff going on in the Middle East right now, but like about videos and stuff, and it's like, well, this is actually from 2014 or whatever, and then the post isn't true, but then all of a sudden it was like, well, actually no, and I'm like, oh, so
which is it?
Like, it's just,
But the thing is, like, people will get that information from AI right away and be like,
Right.
yep, see, it's wrong.
and I think what it came down to in that specific example was it was vice versa. Either the wording that they said was wrong, but the video was new.
Right.
Like they were trying to take something like old news and put it to a new video, or it was an old video that they're trying to put to like a new a new headline. So it was confused because one of them was wrong, but one of them was right. So when it went to go verify, it was only verifying one. But then when somebody else asked it to verify, then it was like, oh yeah, that's part of it's true. So like it got kind of confused because they didn't understand what it's actually being asked.
Well, and that's why, like, a lot of times people with that thing popping up first, and when you do Google search and it gives you that little blurb, like when I'm looking up stuff for notes for this, it'll pop up something and like I could just take and be like, oh yeah, and just write it down. But what you should do is go like, okay, now I'm going to research this part, and then I'll start looking up information about that
Right.
and doing that due diligence rather than just assuming, oh, this is what it is. Because like that could be taken out of context, or that could be skewed just enough that it isn't true, or it's not telling the whole side of the story, because you might see that instance, but really there's 3 other translations of that scripture is like, actually, this is kind of what it's talking about. But because of this translation and what the AI picked from it is what confuses people.
So really the lesson is if you're going to fact check with AI, ask for those sources or something. But really what it comes down to is like think for yourself, use your reasoning,
Well, there's a reason why, like in academic papers and things like that, they go like, cite your sources at the end. Like you should have 3 or 4 different sources when you write a paper.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just be like, my cousin down the street, he told me that this is what happened. Like I have one source, like,
yeah, he told me the Greek word for this was actually.
yeah.
Maybe you can, if you pull up a Greek dictionary,
Right.
like you should learn how to seek out the truth without relying on AI, because it's fallible by the way man has programmed it.
Basically, don't be lazy.
Yeah.
Don't be lazy.
Like,
don't
look this stuff. Don't
Yeah,
just be
don't stop
fed everything.
don't stop thinking, because you can just be like, hey, ChatGPT, write me an email.
Or tell me Bible verses about this, and then it pops up, and then it's now maybe they're all right, maybe some of them are right, maybe but open your Bible, go look it up, make sure you read the whole, either a couple verses before or after, or the whole chapter if you have to understand the context and understand.
Right.
If you need to even get into the Hebrew or the Aramaic or the Greek wording, then do that too.
Or even just commentary. Like you look at, like, people have done studies on this. Obviously, you're not the first person to open up the Bible and look at that verse. Like,
Right.
there's
actually no one's ever looked up.
no
that
one's ever
verse.
told me about that one.
So weird.
So weird.
Yeah, there's already parameters that are anti-Christian within most, if not all, of these AI things. So be careful when it comes to, matters of the Bible and spirituality. AI is a tool, but it's not a replacement for common sense and thinking, and onto the topic of generative AI, I think that's the biggest problem that we have. So essentially things like Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, these programs crawled the internet and scanned billions and billions of images from artists, photographers, proper artists, like all kinds of things. And like there's even lawsuits for copyright infringement, like Anderson versus Stability AI is one of them. But, these artists didn't give consent to train the AI to rip off their images. And what's worse is they're making money off of it. Like, you have to pay Mid-Journey for the generations, and as Christians, we should not be using things like that, because this is stolen property, essentially. The Bible says thou shalt not steal. I think it extends to this, and we shouldn't be even using the things that like animate the pictures and stuff like that's a whole another thing that they're stealing, and it's gonna, like, tools are put to evil purposes if you so wish, but I think it's inherently evil.
I think it's the same thing with like Facebook. Like they had,
The
like,
animate your profile picture thing.
yeah, or
I hate that.
or you have like, here's me in this striped elf pajama thing. Like, oh, I did the candy cane thing. I'm like, but you're also giving them your image.
Yep.
You're giving them basically your photo, your
Mhm.
things like that. And so I have a hard time with people using generative AI, and being a teacher, like I had to put, like, I have a no AI generated images in my classroom. I have fellow art teachers that love AI, and I've gotten in a few arguments. Like, they went to me one time, they're like, oh, my class, we told ChatGPT about the, explanation of like for these jellyfish, and then they drew them, and I'm like, or you could just look up Google Images and use that as reference instead of putting some prompt into Jet.
What is the point of that?
Exactly. And then, like the argument is like, you may not like AI, but it's coming whether you like it or not. So you might as well just, accept it, and you might as well just get on board at some point. And I said, well, that's what the Nazis did to Germans, like you might as well just accept it. It's happening,
Yeah.
whether you like it or not. I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I'm not going to accept it. I'm not going to embrace it.
What happened to if all your friends were jumping off a bridge, would you do it too? Like that's not even an argument.
Right.
To show I'm being fair, like I did write down some of the better arguments I've seen. A solid one, and I think I might have actually first heard it from you, but I've seen it outside of this too, is that people thought photography was not art too when cameras first became a thing. And like, it's kind of compelling, but I was like, that's kind of a reach. It's not the same thing. That was not understanding the art of photography, because it's its own thing.
Right.
Painting is still a
Well, the photos also stole your soul
yeah.
at the time.
Well, that was more of a matter of not understanding. Photography is definitely its own art form, but it did not replace like painting and drawing and sketching.
Right. Well, and the same thing with like digital art. People are like, well, that's not painting. You're doing it on a computer.
Okay, but there's its own.
But you're still
talent.
creating it. You're not like having
Yeah,
a
to me,
computer create it for
that's
you.
really semantics at that point. Cause,
Exactly.
I
Absolutely.
mean, you're just changing the tool in your hand. So it's because it's pixels on a screen. It's different than some graphite in my hand,
Yeah.
That you're going to scan into pixels, maybe.
Yeah, right.
Is a different way of getting there.
Right, but you're not having another entity create it for you.
Right.
Well, exactly. And the big thing here, I think, is, so I looked up the definition of art.
Mm.
Okay.
Oh, here we go.
The conscious use of skill and creative imagination, especially in the production of aesthetic objects. Right? So if it's the conscious use of skill and creative imagination, a program can't have creative imagination.
Yeah,
and
but
I would
I'm the
argue
one
it can't
telling it to do something. It's my skill is what created
Well,
that nice image. Not
It's a
everyone
skill of-
can
it's
make
a skill,
the AI
it's
image
a skill
like
of
me.
programming and telling it how to do something.
Yeah.
to take.
And I think, Jesus quoted Psalms the most,
Right.
right? And, we worship God.
Uh-huh.
Okay. That's music and singing, even if we're good or bad, but like, that brings his presence,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like, I always felt like Jesus and God like really like art, and he gave it to humanity as like a gift, and even he likes it and appreciates it, and like the ability to do art is a beautiful thing.
Well,
It's
you even
that's
look.
why it
There's
connects to you on an emotional and a spiritual level sometimes.
well, God definitely loves art because there's many times in the Bible where He told people to, "Hey, go make a."
Who was the first person filled with the Holy Spirit? He went to go build the temple and created it
Right.
beautifully.
Right, and He told him to put on the oh my gosh,
the ark.
not the ark, but the two cherubs on the or whatever it was.
On the ark.
Was it on the ark?
Yeah.
The Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's two cherubs with the
Right.
wings.
Right.
and-
So he told him to do that. If he didn't like art or he didn't like there wasn't some type of appreciation, then
yeah, it could just
that
be
would
this
be-
stone block and
Right.
like carry this around.
like he would be like, hey, don't worry about that.
Well, here's the fun thing. So like,
What are you doing?
and that's what separates AI from humans, right? Because AI is not a living, self-aware spiritual being like we are. It cannot spiritually comprehend God's word, and it cannot experience emotion despite having emotional language.
Yeah, and the art moves us
Right.
because of the truth we find in it for different reasons, different emotions, but it's connecting to us. It's a very human thing that connects to us on a human level because of our human emotions and our human spirit, like you're saying, and it's not something we can get from a computer, no matter how good it is. And I've seen some, and they were objectively cool images, but like also they're a little off.
They are a little off, although it is starting to get to the point where it's like I can barely tell.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, there's a few tells.
there's
but
a
it's
couple little tells, just like how certain things, especially with movement, when people especially are moving, you're like I just tell the fluidity of it. It's like that's not accurate of how anyone would move, but it's getting really, and it's kind of, I mean, the generative part is kind of relatively new, so how well it's getting so quickly is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean,
and scary.
The deep fake stuff, is definitely a little harder to spot. Sometimes I've had even friends send me something and like, "What do you think about this?" I'm like,
It's fake.
"That's fake, man. Like
Right.
you can Google." I don't want to get into the topic of what he sent me, but it was politics. Like you don't know how to fact check this. Like there's easy ways to figure out if I was like,
Right.
this took me 2 seconds. Like, first of all, I knew that didn't happen because I stay up to date on stuff, as you guys know, but you can easily look certain things up.
And a lot of this stuff, and when and I'm kind of going to a deep dive here is when you talk about things like Revelations, when you see stuff in there when it talks about all the things that's gonna be happening, and you look at it and like all these horrible things are gonna happen across the world, and you also have like the two witnesses and all the miracles they're gonna do. And as a Christian, when you read it, you kind of look at it and you almost go, well, it's in the book. If we see all these things happening, how are people not going to believe anymore? But then when you have things like AI that is so realistic, people who just don't want to believe and just don't want to hear, they're just like, oh, that's AI. That's all I think is that they're just be like, oh, that's not real. They anyone can do that. Now, anyone can has like, $1 billion essentially like CGI work in their house. So that the Christians are just using AI to try to make us believe their silliness in the Bible.
And I think that's a setup for a lot of things with AI. So like the start of it, you're like, okay, it's 6 fingers, this and that. Like you're like, that's ridiculous. It's almost like doing all these AI silly things to the fact that when something does happen, you don't know what's right or wrong because you're going to be
that's exactly what.
Yeah. 100%.
So.
And then another little aspect of it too in Revelations that I was going to bring up. I just figured while we're on it, I know some people believe it. I personally don't, but I do think it'll probably have something to do with it. Is in Revelations 13, right? It talks about it was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, right? So that the image could speak and cause all who would not worship the image of the beast to be slain. Now, you could be an image because it talks about it's supposed to be takes in the third temple, when the third temple is built, it's gonna be in the third temple or whatever. To me, I think it's the image isn't an actual image,
Like a literal.
Yeah, it's gonna, to me, it's more of better chance of it being AI helping with the cloning process of like the Antichrist, and it's made in the image of right the AI potentially, which we're all made in God's image. That image is not of God, and that image is going to be maybe of AI or whatever. and that's going to be an empty vessel, I guess, because as far as souls work, I would think that thing doesn't have a soul, and the devil will probably enter him. I know I'm going on a deep dive here, but
and I hate to keep it going, but before we bring it back around, I was reading that I have to look a little more into it, but something about like they're going to try to splice humans with like alien DNA that they found, and like that sounds like just creating.
well,
like crossbreeding with
that's
like
what
the
we did in
Nephilim
Noah.
and, like,
yeah,
I was like, that's
that already
That's
happened, and
ancient.
that didn't end very well.
well, I think it's supposed to happen again. So
Right.
so now are we going to bring that back
Probably.
upon ourselves? Is that how it's gonna happen?
I think that's exactly how it's going to happen.
Anyway, before we get too deep there,
Well, I'll go a little segue off topic a little bit, but like one thing to kind of talk about to kind of keep us on track a little bit, like AI with like within the church. So with pastors, with people that, we go to church every week. We, hundreds of people sit to listen to one individual give us the word and give us a lesson, give us a teaching. And traditionally speaking, it's, the pastor, like if you're, a true pastor of God and everything else is you spend that week in the word, speaking with God, usually put on your heart what you're going to talk about, what, whether it be a series, whether it be anything like that. And I've been reading a lot about how pastors have been using AI to help writing their sermons. And it starts out innocently enough where like you said, where you're looking something up and it gives you that little summary, and then maybe that's a starting point, for your research, but it's almost, sometimes it's getting to the point where it's writing the sermon for them. And the problem with that is you don't have, it's not God breathed. It's not, God's not working through you to do that. You're using AI that has parameters set by a human to, and whatever understanding they have that's taught that AI as far as what it is, or taking from other sermons and things like that. So there's nothing, it's not actually coming from God. And what you're doing is you're allowing the enemy to use that as their tool.
Oh yeah, you're giving a foothold to them.
To insert whatever they want to say, because you could be sitting there like, granted, like if you're attending church, you should always not just kind of sit there and just take it in. You should always be like, writing stuff down, looking up what the pastor's talking about, and to do your own research and stuff, to not blindly, like not say blindly follow, but like obviously you want to trust them being in a leadership position and things like that. But to be able to do your own research and to be able to see, because like you said, like having, obviously the Bible on your phone is great, but there's nothing better than the word itself, the actual book. And even that, like through things, there are little bit of changes to where that's why it's good to look at different translations to kind of see. But yeah, it goes, I was going to say,
well, the pastor should be a vessel for Christ. So by having AI write it, you might as well just roll the dice and pick a Bible verse.
Yeah, there's so much wrong with that in so many levels, in my opinion.
Do you think you think it's okay when you're writing the sermon, if you're like, okay, I'm writing about love, and I have these verses, to ask ChatGPT, like, are there any other verses about love, just to get a list? Do you think that's okay?
I think it's okay to get that. That's what I mean. So like using it as a tool to pull up stuff, and then you go and then you do the research yourself to kind of pull in. But at the same time, like if you're kind of well versed in the Bible and it comes to a balance of, are you relying on technology to help you write the sermon, or are you relying on God to kind of fill that in? Because the thing is, a lot of the stuff when you're coming up with messages, coming up with things, if you're allowing, say, ChatGPT to write your sermon for you, because you could give the parameters like, these are the points I want to get across to my congregation. Like, help me write something, and then it spits it all out.
Yeah, it's just wrong in so many like if you're a pastor, in my opinion, I mean, I'm not a pastor, never been through all that, but I want to be just praying, fasting, reading the word, worshiping. And when I'm doing those things, whatever God tells me to talk about or puts on my heart to say, it could even be in the middle of the service and it's just, hey, I did this whole sermon and, well, that's going out the window anyway. Like, I don't want ChatGPT to be part of it at all. Now, what you're saying as far as just like, oh, I can't, just a couple extra verses on love, because I don't think there's any, maybe he's like looking for one because like I don't know. I mean, I guess that's okay, but at the same time, I would. It's to become from God and to be that part, you know, that relationship.
Well, you could use it as kind of a starting point. So like if you're trying to like almost like instead of looking in accordance, but again, then that's allowing it to do the footwork for you, which I totally get.
I don't.
Yeah, and it's probably not a good idea, and I'm not a pastor, and I don't think I do it, but, you know, I'm looking at my Bible here. This is called a study Bible, but right here, there's all kinds of cross-reference verses right next to every verse, and the whole bottom sections have explanations and other places of the Bible to look at. Like, we have tools.
Well, it's like for this, like I didn't just look at the first web page that came up to look up information about, anyway, like you look at multiple different sources, you pray about it, you're like, God, what do you want me to talk about? What's something you want me to be like on the drive over here? I turn off the radio so I could sit in silence while I'm driving, so I can see, kind of like get some of those points. And like I actually had to write this down just because I wanted to make sure I got my thoughts clear. So I'm just gonna read it because I can't like
read it.
But I said, so this is kind of my take of it all. I said, it's easy to ask AI and to have it formulate a response or do the research for you, but you lose the experience, the drawing close to God while studying the Word. It's the activity as well as the material learned that you're not going to get that with AI.
Yep. And plus you just need to be the vessel between God and the congregation. Because
well, and think about it.
If the word's going to affect, the word that people need to hear is going to come from God. Not what ChatGPT decides to give you.
Well, think about it. So like when we have our quiet time, when we have whatever, and we're spending that time with God, if I'm a pastor and I'm formulating the sermon for the week, and I just use AI to help me write most of it all the time, then I'm not doing my job as the head of the church to feed my congregation, to lead my sheep I'm not spending any time with God because I'm allowing software or AI to formulate everything for me and potentially put in things that aren't correct because, like I said, enemy can slip things in there that you might not pick up where, you know, one time it might be something really simple and innocent, but that allows that foothold to where it just expands as time goes on. And eventually then you fall into sin and as a pastor and everything else. So like my challenges to pastors is kind of stay away from AI if you can.
Oh, I think you shouldn't use it at all.
Yeah. No, I think I agree with that now that
I think it's just not really okay because at the end of the day, it's between you and God and what God wants you to use or say or do to the people that you're speaking to.
Yep.
No.
And by relying on it to me at all, you're like diminishing it. It's almost like, okay, like how about just I'm not saying you don't have faith, but like have the faith, like put in the time, put in the work. God's going to use you. Maybe, you know, you're struggling. I don't even know what to say. What do I do for this Sunday? You know, I've never been under that kind of pressure. I'm sure that there is a lot of pressure in that, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, maybe you're struggling. So you try to use it, but sometimes you just have to be that vessel to be like, okay, I'm going to go up here and whatever God puts in my heart, I'm just going to say it. Right. I think that is very powerful in it of itself. And I think just it shouldn't be used at all, period.
And like you said, you know, you might have a sermon and then all of a sudden something else comes to you and you end up going a completely different direction.
Oh, and I've had that. I remember going to church when I was in college where he would have, you know, this thing and he's going off and after like an hour, he's like, well, I just got done with point 1. And he's like, God just led me this way and I just took it. And we're like, yeah, keep going. He's like, well, or they go, church is supposed to get out right now, but I'd like to say these few other things. We're like, just keep going. Like I'll stay here an extra 2 hours if God's got something he's got to tell us.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, very cool. Well, I think we're running a little low on time, so let's do our closing comments. My last argument that I thought was compelling but not good enough for being pro generative AI was it's no different than people studying other artists, like an artist studying another artist. And I think that's still just inherently wrong just because of the definition of art that I said. You know, it's a difference between a human learning and then after the learning, and even if you're copying the practice, That's the skill part that you're honing in, and the real art that you produce from there, that's going to be your creative imagination, that's coming out. So that's all I have to say on that.
Yeah, so generative AI, hate it with a passion. That's got its own, like, if you got the lake of fire, that's probably in one of the deepest, like, kind of swells in there, in that spot. But as far as, AI shouldn't be in the church. It shouldn't be with your message. It shouldn't be wherever. AI should be, like you said, like a tool for editing or things that aren't something where it's presenting something as a work.
Mm-hmm. Not a creative,
not in a creative
work.
sense, but like, more of like a secretarial or kind of off like the little
administrative,
paper, like the little paperclip guy,
mathematical.
Like, how can I help
Yeah.
you today? Right?
That guy was so ahead of his time, right? The paperclip guy back in 2004.
Yeah. Are you sure you wanted to use there, or there?
Yeah, remember that little
Clippy?
guy? Clippy, yeah. That was kind of ahead of its time. Although he was very annoying. Sometimes you'd be like, okay, can you just leave me alone?
Hey there, you're writing.
Well, and the thing is, like, this whole love for like, did no one watch Terminator? Like, I just, we got the little, I don't know, like, but it's just we see all this stuff, and like, I feel like it's
That's why you don't let AI use your 3D printer.
yes. Yeah.
Lance, any closing thoughts?
I mean, I guess just to say the same, echo what everyone else is saying. I don't think there's a place for it. Giving words or, kind of using it in the church. I think you got to have faith and let God use you and put the words in your mouth. And, if you're struggling to find the verses or whatever, put in the work and let God show it to you when you're reading your Bible. Pray about it, fast about it. Because that's kind of part of the process too. Right? Like we all don't know all the verses of the Bible. We don't know everything in and out. There's things that we're constantly going to be like, oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that connected to that. And there's a purpose to that, and there's a beauty to that. And we shouldn't cheat ourselves that time with God by just quick little easy, I'm going to just type this into ChatGPT. We need to put in the work and enjoy that time with God.
And as a pastor, don't cheat your congregation. That's about all the time we have on AI. Let us know some of your thoughts in the comments below, especially on YouTube. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. If you're interested in supporting the podcast, we have a Fourth Wall shop. There's a link to that in this podcast description. And right now, you can use promo code SAVE15, SAVE 15. It was a 1 weekend only sale, but we have extended it through the end of, oh my gosh, what month is this? This is April?
April.
We've extended it through the month of April.
It has been extended. Whacking, waving, arm play.
The sale has been extended. We also put up some more merchandise on the shop, like coasters. Coasters aren't bad, and some other cool things too. But we appreciate you all taking the time to listen. We love you. Be safe, and God bless.